review of Moon Knight episode 1, and I am, at the time of this video, up to episode 3. And having watched episode 3, I started to get a little bit worried. I thought it was just me, but as my partner and I were sitting down and watching it together, he uttered the words that I was feeling, which were, "I'm bored." I don't know what happened, because the person who directed the first episode that was amazing directed the third episode. I don't know if the writing was just off, but I found the third episode was more talking, and as my partner put it, a lot of telling, but not showing. And I don't know what happened, but I think I understand why the show is kind of falling off for me, and this can kind of explain where other shows have failed as well. So just as a quick rundown, in episode 2, Steven is trying to figure out what the hell is going on. He gets fired from his job, and the whole show revolves around him finding out who this alter ego is, because Mark Spector only ever happened when he was asleep. Steven is now realizing that he's this whole other person who just takes over his body, essentially, so to him, Mark is an alien or some kind of parasite. Layla enters the picture, which is Mark Spector's wife. Steven, of course, because he doesn't know anything about this other persona, he has no idea he's a wife. His wife doesn't realize that Steven is even a thing, that Mark has an alter ego. The crazy guy that has the scales on his hands that decides whether or not a person is evil based on stuff they haven't done or stuff they have done, basically has a lot of people under his thumb. So when these people come looking for Mark, they're looking for Mark because he has that little gold bug thing, the Scarborough, I forgot what it's called, but it's this thing that can free some other goddess, Egyptian goddess, and nobody wants her to be free, and Mark Spector's trying to stop it from happening. The villain character who's trying to free her tries to recruit Steven to his side, saying that Horus, or the god that's controlling Mark Spector or using his body as an avatar, used to be his god, he used to use his body, and all he can do is move the wind around, he can't do much unless you allow him to, and all of this freaking nonsense. And honestly, the second episode wasn't even that bad, because I figured, okay, this is leading up to something. But by the time the third episode came around, oh my god, I was just so fatigued with the influx of useless information, because all it is, oh my gosh, Egyptian gods that you're supposed to know of, and then this bug thing, and then no one can get it, and then this person gets it, hot potato, and then they just sit down and talk about their feelings for like 90% of the episode is just a whole bunch of talking, and I feel like it's more of a guided tour of Egypt. Not saying that's a horrible thing but this kind of show, it kind of feels like that. It feels like it's a guided tour under the guise of a show. And then there are just parts that just don't make sense. Like I said, episode 3 is where everything just starts to fall apart for me. So this evil guy who wants to kill a whole bunch of people and resurrect this god he's basically the villain. We know he's the villain. Mark Spector says that, look, we have to go before the gods, the other gods, and tell them what's going to happen, because none of them want her to be resurrected either, this crocodile Egyptian god person. So he goes before them, and Horus is like, this is going to be hard. They're going to imprison me if it works out badly. And I shit you not. So Khonshu, I called him Horus before, I don't know why. Khonshu uses his avatar and speaks through him to the other gods and tells him, like, this person is trying to resurrect this god, okay? We need to stop him. That's why I'm doing the things I'm doing. So they summon the villain, these stupid gods. They summon the villain guy, and I swear to goodness, this part made me want to slap everybody in the room. It made me want to slap the writers, and I don't know if this is actually true to the actual lore or story of these gods, but if that's the case, they're freaking insane.
How many personalities he must possess. The man is clearly insane.
So these idiots take the word of another mortal being who was previously the avatar of Khonshu, the very person who was going before them and saying, look, he's doing some weird shit, and he looks at his avatar. They look at his avatar and they say, well, is that true? Do you not know who you are? Are you having trouble? And then, of course, Steven or Mark, whichever one, yeah, I think it's Mark, comes through and he says, yes, I do need help, but this guy is a villain. Like, what? I don't even understand the logic with the writing with this, because if you say, yes, I'm mentally unstable, but this guy over here, he's a bad guy. First of all, why would the gods even believe a human being at face value knowing that humans lie? They themselves lie too. But no one thinks to go and look into what's been happening. They just automatically believe the guy who used to be the avatar of Khonshu and let him walk out of the Pyramid of Giza and just believe him. It's just, I don't even understand the logic. Like, everything just starts falling apart. Not only is there so much information that you're just bombarded with and inundated with from episode to episode, but then it's just full of dead air, and I feel like parts that were very long where people were just sitting and talking could have been done better. We didn't need all of that. Whoever was responsible for the editing and cutting out certain scenes that were unnecessary wasn't there that day or wasn't doing their job that day.
Why? Because my name pisses off a few people in Cairo? Who cares?
I could have told you.
It goes on for a lot longer than that. I mean, seriously, 4 minutes of just this talking and dead air and extra slow pace, and I just started losing interest. I was looking at my phone. I was very disinterested. The episode 3 feels like, I don't know, feels so disconnected from the first 2 episodes. It's like they chose all their best stuff to put in the first 2 episodes, especially the first one. And then in the 3rd episode, they're like, all right, now that we've got them watching, now we can kind of slow down. And I'm like, dude, is this the way the show is going to continue? Because if it's going to be this, it feels very cheapened. It started off strong and just feels like it has burnt out quickly before it even got a time to shine. A lot of people still don't know about the show, and I think that's a problem that a lot of shows have. They get into this kind of monotonous drivel where they do more telling than showing because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to have people just with dialogue and no action. And if the dialogue is entertaining, I could understand. For example, Deadpool. There are periods of time in the Deadpool movie where he's interacting with people and there's no real action, but you don't even feel it because Deadpool's dialogue and interactions with people are so entertaining.
Sweet and salty.
The fuck are you? The fuck you doing in my crib?
Is that burnt crust?
God, I hope not.
Oh, man, look.
It's one of the reasons you love Deadpool, man. Some of the shit he says, the way he moves, the tension in the room, the interactions with the other characters.
You gotta give it to me.
Okay, just look, man, can I have my Sam's
I
card?
will shoot your fucking cat.
Anytime he's talking on screen, you don't ever feel bored. Even if he's just chilling with someone, it's funny. If it's serious, you feel like you can relate to the character, so in those serious moments, you actually believe him. And that doesn't necessarily mean that the character has to be funny all the time. Which is why I guess when they introduced us with Stephen, it was a little bit more believable. Because when that dark side comes out, it's more gratifying. We got the same effect with Omni-Man, and thus we get the same effect with Deadpool. Or in this instant, Wade Wilson.
I belong to a group of guys who take a dime to beat a fella down. Threats hurt, Jer, though not nearly as badly as serrated steel. So keep away from Megan.
And then after this interaction, everything's all cool, everything's kosher. He's still likable, he's still charismatic, he's still believable. He's a freaking badass. And then you get the twist.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we're done.
Wait, we are?
No, we're totally done. You should have seen your face. I don't know what to do. I was so scared.
Soft spot, remember? Leave it book in her general direction again, and you will learn in the worst of ways that I have some hard spots too.
And him being funny / sarcastic / hilarious kind of makes him more scary because it makes you think he's crazy. And I think this is what sold me on Heath Ledger's Joker.
That came out wrong. Or did it?
So as you can see in the Deadpool scene, it really worked because Wade Wilson, before he was even Deadpool, was very likable. He was charismatic. If a character is not as relatable, you make them at least entertaining to watch on screen if you're going to have them leading interactions or highly dialogue-driven scenes. Where in Moon Knight, there's just a lack of that. The characters are already not that likable. Mark Spector, I know the guy who plays him is playing Steven as well. Steven's likable, but now that Steven's kind of like in the background, now we have this guy who is ridiculously boring. He has no charm. He's just broody, and not even the cute, hot type of broody. He's just boring. Just really freaking boring. Like, is this the character that we're supposed to be rooting for who's the hero? Even as the hero, like, he's badass, but we barely ever get to see that. And I find it so strange that for something called Moon Knight, we're seeing more Steve and his wife, or Mark and his wife problems, Steve and Mark. You barely ever get to see the actual Moon Knight character. It's so few and far between, and then when it happens, it's so lackluster that you feel like you're not even watching something about Moon Knight. Like, it's so disconnected, and I found myself just really disappointed because I wasn't even really disappointed, I just got bored. You can't be disappointed when you expected something. I didn't really know what to expect because I don't know about this character. But if this is everyone's first introduction, like people who haven't known about the character, like me, if this is everyone's first introduction to the character, it's not really gonna hold up. People are gonna look at this and be like, ugh, it's so forgettable. It's not a show where I'm like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Loki was kind of like that to some extent, but you know what? Even though they kind of went away from his character a little bit or veered away in the show, Tom Hiddleston was still entertaining as Loki. He still felt like Loki, even though they wrote him away from certain things that he would do with his badassness. The character, the person who is not playing the hero or the villain, just the regular person, he's entertaining enough that it kept us wanting to watch more. I try to do that with my stories. I don't consider myself an expert or really good at writing, but because I love my characters so much, because I'm entertaining myself as well. Other writers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're also entertaining yourself when you're writing your characters, especially if you know the characters very well. I find their interactions very entertaining, and when no action is going on, I try to keep it entertaining with their dialogue, with the way they talk. It has to be meaningful, either to grow the characters, and you have to love the characters enough to want to even sit there and hear them talk in the first place. You guys can be the judge of that on my Logicolic channel if you haven't gone there already and checked out my Monsterverse Adventure parody and my Land Before Time parody. And their audio. I don't have animations and stuff like these people do to hold people's interest. But we're seeing video and footage and it's just boring. The characters are not interesting. They feel like there's no chemistry between them whatsoever. It feels like someone's just putting on a freaking play. And it's a school play that nobody really wanted to be a part of. Maybe I'm being too harsh, but that's just what I get from it. And I think it's a problem that a lot of CW shows and a lot of shows in general in the modern age have. Anyways, what do you guys think about it? Hopefully the show will pick up from the time of this video. I know this was only episode 3 that I watched, but they're very long episodes, so I feel like I've actually just watched a movie. Like, this is part 3 of the movie. That's how I see it. I think shows need to veer away from this at best. I think that they should keep the shorter episodes with more quality and just not quantity. Part of the reason I don't like South Park specials, because when they go on so long, they kind of lose the fervor of what South Park is. There's certain content that's meant to be bite-sized or within like half an hour. But when you have a show that stretches on to almost an hour, like 49, 50-something minutes, and most of it's just dead air and walking and panning and talking, you're gonna lose your audience. And this has honestly lost me. I don't even know if I'm gonna watch past this point, and if I do, I'm gonna be ready to check out at a moment's notice. This female wyvern is named Midnight. She belongs to one of the characters in my parallel world. This is her first clutch of eggs. Even though she's a wyvern, many people refer to her as the pit spitter dragon. And as far as I'm concerned, at least in my universe, all wyverns are dragons, but not all dragons are wyverns, that kind of thing. So not only does Midnight have a retractable spike at the tip of her tail, like the creature from Splice, but she also has the ability to spit acid. She is still very young, and so her acid spitting is merely a defense mechanism until she's old enough and has completely developed the ability to make her corrosive spit flammable. Fun fact, in my story already, there was one situation where we were getting attacked by these huge creatures, and they were closing in, and right at the edge, she was able to, out of desperation, spit and spew her acid and enough of that other chemical from the other side of her mouth in order to make a temporary explosion or a ball of flame, enough for us to get away. So when a female pit spitter dragon has laid her clutch, she's very watchful of them and will stay close by the nest for a week until they hatch. During this time, the female won't be able to really hunt or feed herself, and so the first thing that her body will do is compensate by breaking down tissue that is not as necessary. This is why female pit spitter's wings will look more translucent after she's laid her eggs. After her eggs hatch, and she begins to feed herself over the next few days, the wings will look normal again. This may seem like a disadvantage, but in actuality, it works to her advantage having these translucent wings. As a mother protects her eggs from the elements as well as herself with her wings, she covers herself with her wings. With them being more see-through, she can protect herself while still being able to view her surroundings through her wings. This is important for pit spitters as they are often preyed upon by larger flying predators as well as other dragons. And a mother who is protecting her eggs or basically laying them or laying on them, she is more exposed. So this is a picture of midnight hours before her eggs hatch. If you guys only knew the adventures that we've had together, the only person also she'll ever let touch her eggs is my character Javon. Now that the babies are hatched, she'll let me and one other character and Javon play with them, but under her supervision. She doesn't trust any of us with her eggs alone unless it's Javon. Thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.